Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror fantasy film, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins in the 15th century. The Order of the Dragon battles the invading Turkish forces. Even though the enemy's numbers far outnumber theirs, they eventually win the hard-fought battle. Dracula, a respected leader of the Transylvanian army, feels a bad omen in the air after the battle and rides back home to his wife. The Turks, still bitter about their loss, shoot an arrow with a letter attached, saying that Dracula died and the Order lost the battle. Dracula's wife believes that the letter is true and jumps off a tower into the river below. Dracula arrives at the castle, only to see his wife's body laid on the ground, carrying the falsified letter. The priests tell him that she cannot be saved, and it throws Dracula into a deep rage, which leads him to desecrate the temple of God. He thrusts his sword into the cross, and blood floods the temple. 4 centuries later, a handsome young man named Harker takes a job in Transylvania for an elusive count called Dracula. The count had recently acquired multiple real estate properties in London, and Harker will manage the details of the sale, which is why he has to travel to the remote European country. The scene cuts to Harker talking with Mina, his lover. He tells her that they could get married when he returns from abroad, and promises her that he'll write letters. Harker takes a train to Transylvania and writes in his journal about the trip. He reads a letter sent to him by Dracula, wishing him a safe trip and telling him a carriage will await him upon his arrival. Meanwhile, Mina is also writing in her journal, giving thought about seeing Europe with Harker someday. In the evening, Harker arrives at the destination. He asks the driver why no one is around. The people in the carriage give him a Catholic cross and quickly leave the area. Wolves howl in the distance as a new carriage arrives to pick Harker up. The Ferrari carriage travels through narrow cliffs and dark forests. They finally arrive at the castle, and Harker stands at the gate. He enters the castle where Dracula, now a pale old man, greets him. Moments later, they sit at the dining table. Harker asks Dracula about the painting hanging on the wall. He explains that his ancestors and the Order of the Dragon swore to fight against the enemies of the church, but the relationship did not turn out well. Harker laughs at this, and Dracula takes offense, suddenly swinging his sword towards Harker. He apologizes for his ignorance. Later on, Harker finalizes the details of the sale at the castle and tells Dracula that he is now the owner of land in London. He applauds Harker for his talents. Harker asks why he bought the land at specific locations throughout London. Dracula ignores this, as he sees the picture of Harker's lover, Mina. The Count believes that she is his lover's reincarnation, and he has nefarious plans for her. He tells Harker to stay for a month, and doesn't take no for an answer. It's revealed that Harker's predecessor, another solicitor like him, was also handling Dracula's land acquisition when he suddenly turned mad. He was committed to an asylum, where a doctor is investigating what's happening to him, and why he suddenly was obsessed with consuming blood. Right then, the predecessor begs the doctor for a cat, and the doctor asks why. He tells him that his master will soon come and give him immortality. He then bites the doctor, and the guards subdue him. Back at the castle, Harker writes in his journal about the Count and the Count's reaction to Mina's picture. He accidentally cuts himself while shaving, and the mirror breaks as Dracula glances at it. He takes the razor from Harker's hand and licks the blood off while he's not looking. He then asks for the letters he requested, which Harker gives to him. He sees the cross hanging from Harker's neck and angrily tells him not to put his faith into things like that. A few moments later, Harker leaves his room and navigates the castle with a candle in hand. He finds a door which he pushes open. Inside, he hears a voice telling him to come. The voice then tells him to lay down. As he lays down, he is bitten by 3 enchanting women who are Dracula's former victims, but now slaves. As he is about to be devoured, Dracula enters and tells the blood and hormone-thirsty women to go away. He then feeds the hungry women a fat baby instead, which frightens Harker. In the morning, Mina receives the letter he sent her, saying that he will remain at the castle for a month. Harker roams around the castle once more, familiarizing himself with the servants and their jobs at the castle. He wonders why they are packing crates full of dirt from the bowels of the castle and sending it to London. Mina's friend, who she's staying with, announces that she is engaged. She asks Mina to be her maid of honor. Mina begins to worry about Harker, saying that the letter he sent is cold and unlike him. Her friend assures her that he's fine and they will be reunited soon. The scene jumps to the ship transporting the crates from Transylvania to London. The ship captain writes in his log the disappearance of his second mate and how the crew feels that something is aboard the ship with them. In fact, it is Dracula being transported to London so he can enact his nefarious plan. As Dracula arrives near London, strange things begin to happen around the estate of Mina's friend. Storms begin to brew, and the animals seem anxious. The winds blow open the doors, and Mina hurriedly closes them. She then notices that her friend is walking outside in the middle of the thunderstorm. She calls out, but her friend does not respond. She follows her through the garden, where she sees her being attacked by Dracula in the form of a hairy beast. Dracula vanishes instantly, and Mina rushes to care for her friend. The next day, Dracula arrives in the streets of London and strolls the streets looking for Mina. He is now wearing a suit and cane, and his appearance has rejuvenated to its youthful form. Dracula runs into Mina and asks her for directions. She abruptly tells him where to go and leaves immediately. Dracula suddenly appears in front of her again, which startles her shit off. She asks him if he is acquainted with Harker, to which he replies that he shall bother her no more. She calls him back and apologizes for being rude. He introduces himself as a prince. Later in the evening, the doctor visits Mina's friend, and she tells him that she is changing. The doctor tells the fiancé that whatever is happening to her is beyond his knowledge, so he needs to contact his mentor about it. The scene jumps back to Mina and Dracula, who enters an exhibit full of highlights of scientific advancements. Mina turns to leave after realizing that she should not be there, but Dracula stops her and entrances her. However, the trance is broken by a wolf suddenly entering the exhibit. Dracula commands the wolf and tells Mina to pet it. The scene cuts to the mentor, who is giving a lecture about bloodborne diseases. The telegraph from the doctor came, and he excuses himself from a lecture. It turns out the mentor is a famous hunter of strange creatures. Back in the castle, Harker is trapped in a room where he is fed on by gypsy vampires. He plans to escape, but is waiting for the opportune moment to do so. The mentor arrives at the estate and talks to the doctor about the condition of Mina's friend. They suddenly hear her screaming, and they rush upstairs where the mentor performs an experimental procedure that might save her. Her fiancé comes inside the room, and they quickly ask him to roll up his sleeve for a blood transfusion. Later, the men discuss what actually caused Mina's friend to develop a disease like this. They arrive at the conclusion that there is a monster out there that feeds on other people's blood. Later in the night, Dracula and Mina have dinner. She tells Dracula what she envisions of his homeland and describes it perfectly. She also describes what happened with Dracula's former lover and the events that led to her death. This further solidifies that Mina is indeed the reincarnation of Dracula's wife. Back in the castle, Harker climbs the ledges in hopes of a daring escape. He slides down from the roof and lands in the river. He crawls through mud and thick forest and manages to find help in a church. One of the sisters from the church sends Mina a letter telling her that her life is in extreme danger and she should come to the church immediately so they could get married. Mina receives the letter and visits her friend, who is now on bed rest. She tells her to go to the church and marry Harker. She also gives her ring to Mina and tells her she'll be alright. The mentor gives Mina's friend garlic, and she becomes enraged and tries to bite other people. But the mentor holds her down and calms her with his muscles. Dracula receives a letter from Mina, telling him that she's coming to Romania to join her husband and marry him. She implies that she will not see Dracula again, which upsets Dracula a lot. On the way to Romania, Mina tears apart her journal and throws the pages into the sea. The mentor finally discovers that it is Dracula they are dealing with and jumps in excitement. He tells the men to guard Mina's friend well because something is coming. Dracula makes his way into the garden, where he kills an unsuspecting person. He attacks the guards and pushes the fiancé out of the way. Dracula fully turns Mina's friend into a vampire. At the same time, Harker and Mina have their wedding in the church. The next day, people gather for the memorial service of Mina's friend. The mentor tells the doctor to give him a set of post-mortem knives so he can perform an autopsy on the body of Mina's friend, but the doctor refuses. Mina and Harker make it back to London, where Mina finds that she misses Dracula and longs to see him once more. The mentor and others make their way to Mina's friend's grave. They open it to find the coffin is empty, proving that she is undead. Suddenly, they hear footsteps and crying coming from the stairs, so they quickly hide. It is Mina's friend, who is now a vampire carrying a child. They confront her, but she tries to hypnotize her husband. But the mentor saves him and subdues the vampire. He tells the fiancée to strike her heart with a stake, killing her once more. The mentor meets up with Harker and Mina. Harker recounts the time when he was kept as a prisoner in the castle. The mentor asks him if he ever tasted blood when the women fed on him, and he tells him no. The mentor asks them to join the fight against Dracula. Later that evening, they plan to keep Mina in prison, so she can be safe. The predecessor calls out to the doctor and Mina. He tells her that Dracula is coming for her, and she should get away from Harker and the others. On the other side, the mentor and the others scour the land that Dracula bought, hoping to find where the crates of soil were unloaded, as this is the only way Dracula could regain his power in a foreign land. They start destroying the crates, and this angers Dracula. Dracula appears as a green mist and kills the predecessor, stating that he betrayed him. He then enters the room where Mina is kept and reunites with her. He reveals to her that he is Dracula. Mina is momentarily angered and hits Dracula for murdering her friend. Meanwhile, the mentor and the others are burning the crates, making sure that the soil is purified. But right then, Mina is overpowered by the mystical connection she has to Dracula as the reincarnation of his wife. She confesses her love to Dracula, and he attempts to turn her into a vampire. He tries to stop her from drinking his blood so that she won't be condemned to eternal suffering. But she drinks his diabetic blood anyway. Harker and the others burst into the room, coming face to face with Dracula. They manage to subdue Dracula, but he manages to run his vampiric ass away by turning into a pack of rodents. The mentor hypnotizes Mina in an effort to find and locate Dracula. She reveals that he is traveling by ship back to his home, where he could become strong once again. They plan to travel by train and reach the location faster than Dracula, so that they may stop him before it's too late. The mentor tells everyone that Mina is slowly dying because of the vampire blood she ingested. Mina and the mentor arrive at the castle first. Mina tries to attack the mentor, but the mentor avoids her and draws a circle of fire around her to protect her. The next day, the mentor enters the castle, finds the bodies of the gypsy vampires, and cuts off their heads. In the distance, a carriage arrives, which carries Dracula. Harker and the others try to bring down the carriage before it reaches the castle. The Ferrari horses ride around the cliffs, and they fight the people transporting Dracula. The carriages finally reach the castle. Dracula escapes from the crate, but gets slashed in the neck by Harker. The fiancé stabs him in the chest as well, but not before getting stabbed too. However, Mina steps in and begs the men not to hurt Dracula. Despite their protests, they acquiesce to Mina's plea and allow her and Dracula to leave. The fiancé succumbs to his wounds and dies. The movie ends with Mina and Dracula heading inside the castle temple, where he first renounced God centuries ago. Dracula tells her to kill him and end it all. She hesitates first, but finally stabs him in the heart, killing him. But then, a painting on the top shows that Dracula has finally reunited with his dead wife, possibly somewhere in their afterlife. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.